Well, good afternoon my YouTube friends, it's Margaret here from M.E.s Orchids, and I'm picking a topic today which has taken me a long time to come to grips with, and that is overwatering orchids and maybe underwatering orchids. Now, this is I believe anyway, one of the first obstacles that as a novice you have to come to grips with, and it's very difficult. And why is it difficult? Because the first place we turn to is YouTube, and YouTube is absolutely marvellous. However, we live in a temperate climate in England. So that means we have 4 seasons. We have other areas like Canada. They have like spring, very hot summer, and then an early winter. And Florida has more or less a tropical climate. So in other words, it can throw it down June, July into August, and then it's very hot and humid, and then we get the drier months. And we go to Australia, and they again, depending on which part of Australia you're from, they can have a tropical climate. So watering is all about your own environment as well. And the reason for that being is, I live in England, which I live in the northwest, which is part way up England. Roger from Roger's Orchids, he lives on the south coast, and so he is warmer than I am. He has a utility or a conservatory where he grows his orchids. Ed of Ed's Orchids, he lives further up than me, but he grows in a greenhouse. Rachel from Garden at Dwenser, she's in Ireland, Southern Ireland, and she has her indoor orchids, and she also has orchids in a greenhouse. And so we're a diverse group, which we're all over the world. And that means that our orchids, we might have the same orchid with the same name, but it needs completely different waterings. Now the one we've got here, this came as a loose division, and can you see? Brasso Cattleya BLC Pink Diamond. Now this one and a couple more I've had outside because we've got this nice gentle rain at the moment after this 2 or 3 days of warm weather. And you can see now down there, what I've had to do is I've removed a good top layer of large bark, because I felt that it gave me the wrong indication of whether this orchid wanted watering. So I've replaced that top layer with lava rock. Now you'll still see some bark in there, and the reason being that bark had already attached to those roots, those new roots. Now this Cattleya, because it came bare rooted, has had to produce its own roots. Now you'll also see how much bark there was, because these 2 little growing tips here, the media was completely covered this. So it looked to me bone dry, which was a false indicator, because it wasn't bone dry. So this has been outside, and you can see how those roots have turned that pale green. These will go back outside because we've got this nice gentle rain for a couple of days, but then our temperatures are going to drop, and that means that I don't want these Cattleyas to stay wet. And why don't I want them to stay wet is because this type of an orchid requires a wet, dry cycle. So it'll be wet, come inside, my temperatures are fairly warm at the moment, but it will still, that pot will still hold enough moisture, especially if it stays outside for a couple of days, will hold enough moisture for me. Because it's going to go colder this weekend here in England. We're going to drop from temperatures of 29 where I live down to 17. So when it drops, you've got a significant drop like that, I will still have my humidity up, but these roots will require to dry out. So that's what we're looking at. The same with this one, you see. This is the other part of it. Can you see? I've replaced that bark. Now, I can see now, by looking at that, even if I brought this inside now, I'd know that it's had sufficient water and it's taken sufficient water up. Those are the old roots. Can you see? There. So they've absorbed the moisture as well, and these are the new roots. So that's those two, and I'll just stay on the this type of orchid. Now this is my big Laelia purpurata. Big girl this is. And she's just in large bark. Sorry about that. But all these roots are green now. You can see that root over there. You can see round here, and you see here, all these roots are green. This is going to go back outside. And if we turn her this way around, can you see? There. This hasn't got thoroughly drenched. It's got enough just to keep these roots, they wanted watering anyway. So this has been a gentle rain. And so this will go back outside, and it can throw it down for the next 2 days before, you know, I will bring it in. So that's that type. This one, this is an Angraecum sesquipedale, and this likes lots of water, but it doesn't get lots of water because I'd kill it if I give it too much water. But it's gone outside now, and this has got a mixture of bark and a few growth stones I think in there. There might be the odd little bit of sphagnum moss, but not much at all. And this will go back outside. This quite likes being wet. And probably in some ways, by keeping it inside, it dries out. But better to have it dry than to overwater and kill it. Now you'll see these roots. Can you see? These are thicker roots. And eventually, these look like, they're funny things. They kind of go woody. But when they've moistened, when they've had water, you see how they green up. So all the different species of plants they've adapted to have roots so that they can survive. And they've adapted, like with the Cattleyas, which are epiphytes, they've adapted to be on trees. And they can have copious amounts of water, absolutely throw it down, but then it dries. We have this, the temperatures rise and they dry out. So I'm more cautious, if you like, about overwatering, because overwatering your orchids will kill them. Underwatering, they won't like it, but it won't kill them. Right, now then we get this big one. I'll go on to this big Dendrobium delicatum. Here we go. Now this has been out for a few days. And this is enormous. look at the pot. But you'll see there, and you see, just tucked in there, a nice green root, and another one on top of it. And this is grown in a combination of things. But it's dried. It has dried out. We've had these days of this nice warm weather where we've gone up to here, 28, 29C. Oh, I'm much happier at 20 or 21C. And this has been outside, and I've not touched it. It's had no water. It's done no harm. And it'll stay out for another couple of days, hopefully, to get all this medium wet, and then it can come inside. Because I don't think our temperatures are going to rise. We're going unseasonally into some autumnal weather. Now, there's another one. Now this is Dendrobium crumamentum. And this one's in a clay pot. I do like the clay pots because they do absorb moisture. This one looks as though it's potted in everything. Sphagnum moss, orchiata bark, lava rock, and I try and keep that area there. Can you see? Where there's a dip. I try and keep this part clear because that's the centre of the plant, and the roots will come out from that. And I mean, they come out, they're clinging down here, and see, they've got a little cakey there, and you can see, dry as a bone here. A little bit of a sphagnum moss there, but so this is going to stay outside until I know that that pot's saturated. But then from my environment it'll come inside, and then it'll probably it could take a week for this to dry out easily. Right, so the next one we'll venture on to is, so those I've shown you now are all in terracotta pots. Now let's show you plastic. Okay, now look at this. Look at that little healthy plant. And this is, there we are. Okay. And I did have this one mounted. And I didn't think I was giving it enough water. So I decided to pot it in this plastic pot. It's not a big pot. It might look a big pot to you there, but this isn't a big pot at all. I'm just trying to see if I've got a bigger pot, but perhaps I haven't. Because I've been watching Roger's videos, and I'd actually done this before. I'd watched Roger's videos about going smaller. And if you can go smaller, it is better. Smaller is better. Now, this one has got lava rock, orchiata bark, sphagnum moss. So we've got, this one's layered. And look, you see, we've got all these nice roots on the top. Now, but we've also got them, some of them going down. And you look at that now, as I touch underneath, there's a tiny bit of moisture. And so that doesn't need watering. However, if I did want to water that, sorry about this, I'm looking around for something. I water it in something like this. And I've got some, I'm not going to water it now because can you see? The light's bad, but can you see that orchiata bark there is still damp, and this shouldn't be watered. The beauty of clear pots is you can see exactly how the media is drying out. This, see, if I watered this now, it'd absorb that straight into the sphagnum moss. Well, that bark is already moist, and I would be watering this orchid and I'd be causing more damage. But I'd fill this up and it'd sit in there. You see? I don't need to put a lot of water in, and then it'll absorb it up, but that does not require watering at the moment. Now you get some that are even smaller. And this is my little Masdevallia. This is the long yellow striped. This is the one that came, and I split it into 4. One's actually flowered. Now this one, Masdevallias, are not supposed to dry out. But mine have to dry out because sometimes I forget them. But you see that media there? And you see. So that's dry. And what I'd do with this one, because it does want watering and feeding, and I've got some already here, I will, see, in a little, I just bob it in there like that. See? And that is how I water the little ones like this especially. And that'll just absorb that. If by the end of this video it's absorbed enough, I'll show you how those roots have turned green. Now the next 2 I'm going to show you, believe it or not, is the only Oncidium type I've got, and I don't know how they survive because I've had this since July 16. Sometimes when I look back I think to myself, I don't know how some of these orchids are still here, because I did treat them very badly. Not that, no, I must correct myself. I didn't treat them badly because they're still here 3 years later, but I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea at all. Right, so let's have a look. This is Oncidium powii. This has humongous big pseudobulbs. It came with that one, came with that one, and it came with that one. So this has been split. Then it had this one, and now it's trying to survive. And can you see those green roots? There. Now you look at that media. You look. Can you see? Can you see all this moisture here? There's a green growing tip there. But can you see all this moisture? Now, to all intents and purposes, on the top there, that wants watering, doesn't it? There's a rogue piece of wood. Let's get rid of that. That wants watering. Because Oncidiums like it moister, if there's such a word. But they mustn't be overwatered. Now that's what I had so much trouble getting my head around, is how can they want moisture but just need to stay moist? And that's the answer. Is the top part, there is still moisture in that pot. So if I was to water now, this here would stay wet. And what all orchids don't like is to sit, if you like, it's a silly expression, they don't like to sit with their feet in water. So there's enough moisture down here for that growing root. And until that moisture dissipates, like it is here, this won't get watered. And here, can you see new roots? Can you see? Can you see those new roots there? Look at this tiny little, compared. But at least. Now, there's a root, you see, can you see? And there's another root. And it's trying, it's attempting to send the roots down. And I've got a row of roots here. So that row of roots there is taking up enough moisture for this Oncidium to survive. It doesn't want any more. And you'll start to have that media too wet, and these poor roots will just drown because they do need air. Now this one I've struggled with. And this is one I had in 2017, and it's a Sologeny, and it's a species one from Australia. Now this has just been watered, and you can you see how wet it is? In fact, it's dripping. But this one goes into a container to be watered, and it takes up the water, right? Now we've got 3 new growths there, and I don't know whether you'll see down there, whether you can just see the new roots. Okay, now I've lost so many new growths with this one that I don't know. Like I say, sometimes I just wonder how some of these have survived. But this now, you see, it's quite wet, isn't it? And there's the roots, you can see. And this has got all holes in. There's a nice root, you can see. This will be completely dry before I water that again, because I've realised that, and I have to water it, let it sit and take the water up. If I water from above on this, these new growths will just die. I cannot water, even though that one there, if I was to get any water on these leaves, they'd just die. Right, now let's just quickly go on to this one. And this is a mounted one, okay? And this is Dendrobium pendulum. And this one has a bed of moss. And this was watered yesterday. Can you see that new growth? This is this year's growth. And that's the cane from last year. Now this won't get watered today. By tonight, it probably won't need to be watered tonight, but sometimes when we've had this very hot weather, when I've gone in at night time and I've touched that like that, and I think, no, that isn't dry enough, but I might spritz these roots here. But if the weather stays wet like it is today, this won't get touched at all till tomorrow. You see, look how fat those canes are. It doesn't need the water, even though it's got that new growth there. There's enough moisture in there. Those roots are green. Overwatering will kill those roots. Now let's take on this one. Might be running out of time here. That's that nice little Phalaenopsis, and that's mounted. Okay, there's a nice green growing tip. This one will get watered sometimes every day if it's very hot. It didn't get watered yesterday, it's come to no harm. It might get watered today, depends. If it stays wet tonight, then it won't get watered tonight. I'm quickly going through them now because I see that time's running up. This one. This is one. Turn it round. I have just mounted. There. This is Dendrobium Gracilli. This one is giving me roots everywhere. Can you see them? This is mounted. It's got no sphagnum moss or anything. This has to be watered every day because there's no way, once this is watered and it goes into my grow room, there is no way, this dries out quickly. The wet, dry cycle. It dries out within half an hour. And then I've got the fans on and it waits till the next day. And if I've got a couple more to show you, wonder if I've got enough time. This one. This is Catteleya Jarak Green Star. This has got a wonderful, beautiful new growth. This is potted in just charcoal, and I've put it inside this other pot. Now this one I treat as a mounted one, okay, but sometimes I forget and I don't water it. So if I just bring this down here, now that's my water for today. So with this one, it goes straight in. And you see, straight in the water like that. Now I couldn't do that with these with bark because all the bark would float out the top. Okay. Those who grow Phalaenopsis in little containers, this you'd think was bone dry, but it isn't. Look round here. Can you see that moisture still in that pot? This does not want watering until tomorrow, even though the indicators are that it's bone dry. It actually isn't. So if you're an overwaterer, perhaps converting to pots you can see through would be a good idea. This is one that I had from a friend at work, and I've rescued this one. And it's coming along very nicely. But again, look at the moisture. That does not require watering. Now I don't know whether this video has been of any use to anybody, but this is how I deal with watering my orchids. I don't overwater now because I used to kill them. But it took me a long time to understand that. You see this one here, this is Rinco Calanthea, and that's got sphagnum moss in, so that doesn't want watering yet. So, well, this is a quick tutorial, so from me to you, take care, bye bye now.